Clayton Bailey here, Green Stain Home Inspections. I'm here with Michael Bosco, Safehaven Pest Control, and I wore my wood jacket today.
Love it.
Because, it's swarming season. And so I just wanted to talk about that with you. And, March to May is about that time of year. And I'm sure you're getting lit up with phone calls right now. But for our average viewer out there that doesn't know what's happening, so swarming season happens when termites are trying to recolonize. So if you have swarmers, they've already been there for like 3 to 5 years, right?
That's right. It means that the colony has gotten large enough to where they can send off reproductives, right? So the resources of the colony are big enough to where they're ready to populate the world. And so it's great for a homeowner because it's about the only calling sign that most homeowners are ever going to see is when they swarm. So it's as terrible of an event as it is, and scares out of a lot of homeowners when it happens. But it's good because it's like let them know,
that it's happening.
We're here, we're eating your home, you need to do something.
So now when you see that sort of thing and you've got swarmers happening, the question that I always get is like, well, Clayton, I'm looking around the perimeter of my house and I don't see them coming up through the, outside anywhere. Where are they coming in? And I know that from our construction experience that your plumbing pipes that go through your bathrooms and that kind of area, that goes straight to the dirt and it's supposed to be there. And you may not know this because you're not in construction because you're the bug guy, but back in the 80s and through 90s, the builders would cheat. Instead of using a plastic break barrier, they would use just a cardboard box to break that plumbing vent stack pipe. Well, then cardboard gets wet. Termites are going to eat it, and then boom, you've now have them there, and 3 to 5 years later, that's when they're going to come out and recolonize. So how's that process work? So if it's in the center of the house, how do you guys treat for something like that?
So anything that's a 1/16 of an inch or larger, a termite can get through, right? So like you said, all your plumbing penetrations are all opportunities. So we use the Centricon termite baiting system install around the outside of the house, and if they're active infestation, if it's a curative situation, we can put an above ground station on that activity and solve that. There's also that you can do it the more conventional way. We can drill through the slab and do a sub slab injection. That's another option. So those are your two ways of controlling them. We've had fantastic success with Centricon that you don't have to be so invasive and have to drill through the concrete or the floor surfaces of the home. And if it's a pier and beam home, then you have a crawl space. That's another.
Yeah.
Right.
So, and it's funny, like new construction, like back in the day, they had termite shields and they had those things over the piers and all around the perimeter beam. But, new construction, you don't see it very much. And when we look at those really old houses, it's one of those things where termites don't like that older wood because it's lost its nutritional value. And so it's the newer houses, right now it's 2022. So those houses that are from the 90s, that's kind of like the prime time era for termites because it's all that chemical has worn off, right? And so is that something that you guys do as well during construction is treat?
Termite retreats.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, so you have a couple of options there. You can do the wood, treat the framing with a borate, which we do a lot of, or you can treat the soil as an option, or you can actually use the termite baiting systems as a preventative as well. So you have 3 options in a new home construction. Yeah. But you're right. You're making a good point on the older home, the really old homes. A lot of those homes are built out of hardwoods or even softwood, the pines that are old growth. The termites don't have as much soft spring wood to consume in those.
Right. So from what I've been told, it's like, they're like me or you. Anything that's soft and juicy, like it's easier to eat and they're more, they're going to go after that versus something that's dry and hard and they really have to work for it. They're not necessarily going to go after that wood. They're going to go after what's wet and what's easy to get to softwood wise.
Right. They need a certain moisture level. So you're right, exactly on the moisture level in the wood is huge. But the other part of it is the amount of cellulose, right? So in a tree that was like an old growth, you're not going to have as much cellulose between the rings. Whereas like the pine trees, the new hybridized pines, they grow so fast. Yeah. There's a lot more cellulose in between the rings. So it's more palatable to them.
Yeah. So let's just talk about really quick for our viewers out there. So if you've got little flying ants, right, and they're coming up and they're swarming, as they say, Could be carpenter ants, could be another kind of ant. And so let's just talk about a termite's wing. They look kind of like a winged ant, but their wings, if you put all 4 wings out, are symmetrical and they're even.
They're identical.
Yeah.
4 identical wings.
And so where a carpenter ant or regular ant, their wings are the back ones are a little bit narrower than the front ones. And so that would be one of the telltales is all 4 wings match. And then the other one is their little antennae, right? So the termite is going to be straight antennas, where an ant, they're going to have a little bend in there. So now you just learned something about pest control. So if you see swarmers, you still need to call this guy though to see like what's going on. But I also wanted to talk about sort of what other kind of wood destroying insects that we have here in Texas. So we've got your carpenter ants is another one, but they're not necessarily eating the wood for nutritional. They're trying to nest in the wood, right?
That's right. Yeah. So if you think of how a fire ant excavates the dirt, the carpenter ant's doing the same thing with the wood and making galleries, right? So it's not a nutritional item for them. They're just making a home. Yeah.
And it's that time of year, springtime right now, where our gutters might be full of debris and all this funky pollen and all the leaves that are coming down. And if we're not cleaning out those gutters, those carpenter ants love to go in that moist area where they can just chew up and nest and make all that stuff. Let's talk about a couple of the rare ones though. Like we've got powder post beetles they don't actually come in the soil to the house. They usually get imported from cabinetry, right?
Yeah, most of the time when you have a powder post infestation, they're going to actually have been in the wood at the time when the wood was milled and built, right? So it was in the tree. And then as it becomes furniture or cabinetry or built-ins or whatever it is, then at some point, because they can have a 7-year life cycle plus, they will emerge and all of a sudden you have these holes in your cabinets, right? And that's a little concerning. Yeah. In those situations, unfortunately, you're limited to either fumigation or ripping all of that wood out and starting over.
So ripping out the cabinets and they're gone. Sometimes that's the only option. And then another telltale sign with the powder post beetle, just so if you open your cabinet doors and you see like talcum powder kind of thing in the cabinet, some people will actually hear like a clicking sound from where they're actually chewing on the wood. You can actually hear it. That's another telltale sign. Let's talk about carpenter bees, right? So kind of another one of those wood destroying ones that pops up on our inspection reports that we have to talk about, but it's not very common, right?
Rarely do you see them in the structures of a home. Usually what they're going to be on is like an outdoor deck or a pergola or some other wooden structure, a lot of times made out of cedar, and they're going to drill about a 1/2-inch hole, a little bit or larger, into the wood. And again, just like the carpenter ants, they're making galleries, right? So they're digging in and they're laying their egg, and that's their home. So, but they're weakening the wood. They're chewing it up and kicking it out. So they're structurally weakening that structure.
But it's not unlike the powder post beetle. It's not like you need to rip all that wood off and do anything about it. There's just usually a few holes here and there. Pretty easy to treat. Now another rare one that I don't know if you guys run across it very much, but formosan termites. So formosan termites, they eat 10 times as fast and 10 times as much as a regular subterranean termite. So when I teach down in Houston, I've got, you see a house that's been infested with formosan termites, and it's amazing. Like they take over the insulation and they just go everywhere, and you're like, what in the world? So
their colonies are twice as big, not twice as big, 10 times bigger, right? So they just get bigger, and so their appetite's larger. So there's a few communities here in the Metroplex that do have formosan termites. Both of those subdivisions have a lot of railroad ties that were brought in. So there's a strong suspicion that they were brought in as colonies within those railroad ties, but now they're a problem in those communities. And so, and very difficult to tell them apart. Yeah. Extremely difficult. I mean, even
the head's a little bit longer, a little bit
They're a little bit more oblong, and they're more aggressive too. You're going to see a lot more soldiers in a colony. One of the easiest way to tell is if you aggravate them. A lot of times the soldiers will bite you. They'll attack, and it's just a real simple way to maybe see if that is. But If it is formosan termites, your problem just got 10 times potentially worse.
So how do you treat formosan termites?
So formosans are still a subterranean termite. So our treatment method is not going to be any different than it would be for our eastern subterranean termite. It just, you want more confirmation that control has occurred.
Right.
There's your damage potential is just that much greater. So we just want to make sure that we've got them under control. So Centricon is still extremely effective for them as well, and doing any of the conventional subsurface treatment, either if they're coming up on the exterior or through all the plumbing penetrations that we were talking about earlier, those penetrations would need to be treated with a termiticide. But Centricon has been a fantastic tool on both of those.
Do you use, and I know that the products out there available, but it's kind of like a foam that you inject in the wall. Do you guys use that stuff as well? Like a spot treatment type of thing?
So if you're doing a conventional treatment and you're doing a subslab injection, then you really kind of get a little bit more assurance if you do a foam injection of that plumbing penetration where the pipe's actually coming up. Because even though you may be treating underneath the slab, you don't know where that product is going because it's below the slab. And so by treating the foam injection inside the wall void, you're getting, where that product went. There's only one place for it to go. So it's another kind of assurance that you're getting product where it needs to be to protect that plumbing penetration.
Okay. So for homeowners out there, just kind of wrapping up, springtime, clean your gutters, walk around the outside of your home. If you see any unusual holes, in a termite tube would probably be about the width of a drinking straw, wouldn't you say? And they're usually in your corners, in your intersections. And so you'll just see a little teeny tiny kind of brown tube going up. And then that's when we need to call Mike to come out here and treat for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So
send a picture. Let's figure it out. Let's just make sure, right? Don't forget about it.
It's important because they're eating your house just a little bit at a time. So this is a very important thing. Clayton Bailey, Green Scene Home Inspections. Just making sure that you stay informed as a homeowner about wood destroying insects in your home. It's swarming season from March to May, so be on the lookout. Call Michael Bosco, Safehaven Pest Control, and they'll get you taken care of.